For the past month and a half, I am 75% sure I have been reading the greatest webtoon. No, the greatest manhwa ever written. And trust me, I've read tons of manhwa, ranging from the most popular of them like Solo Leveling, Tower of God, God of High School, Unordinary, Omniscient Reader, even did my tootsies in some of the romance like Lore Olympus, and from some of the even less popular ones that still slap like Marshall Peak, Legend of the Northern Blade, Time Roulette, you get the gist. But none of them, and I mean none of them, have invoked emotions such as tears, true anger, happiness, and a love for a masterfully narrated series such as this one. And I'm not only able to get immersed into the stories and committed to the characters, but I am also able to see myself in these characters because these characters are black. Yep, they're black. The popular webtoon known as Ordeal, illustrated and written by Brent Bristol, follows our main character Shay Hart, who is just a human in a world full of superpowered Kimyos, but he's determined to become the greatest fighter to ever live. Which is a portion of the summary, but come on Brent, there's so much more depth to this story, and he knows it. On the surface, this would just seem to the naked eye a regular superpower world with heroes, villains, and civilians. But I'm here to show you how much more Ordeal has to offer. The main setting of the series takes place in Trinidad and Tobago, a twin island country situated off the northern edge of the South American mainland. Already this series sets itself apart from its counterparts. Instead of taking place in a bigger mainland country such as Japan, China, UK, or America, typically where a lot of the manhwa, webtoons, manga, and anime take place, it takes place on a small island located in the West Indies, which also happens to be home to our mangaka Brent Bristol. And as a person whose lineage comes from the West Indies, specifically Jamaica, I'm able to immediately find familiarity within this story. But putting that to the side, what else makes Ordeal so intriguing? Well, we have our main character Shay Hart. Shay is a human. Well, above average human. You see, Shay's profession is martial art combat, in which he fights against humans and Kimyos, pretty much the underground UFC of this world. But you see, in this world, Kimyos are substantially stronger than the average human, and their abilities range from a wide variety of selection. For instance, someone may have the ability to eject their skin as spiked quills, sort of like a porcupine, and others can control the ash of their dead ancestors and use it for combat. You see where I'm going with this? These abilities are specifically called talents. And for now, I'm going to leave it there in order to keep you from losing the premise of the video, because trust me, the talents go way deeper than you can process if you have not read the story already. But throughout the story, we follow our main character Shay Hart and his friends, who were all under the tutelage of their master Leo Thomas, who was formerly ranked #1 of the god tier Kimyos. The group being the fighters for the Red Ember Gem are Shay Hart, Tevin Charles, Luis Hemlock, Azam Aziz, and Anton King, all exceptional fighters, alright? And were brought in and taken by Leo Thomas in order to properly and safely be trained in how to use their talents, because in this world, Kimyos are still not seen as the best. Historical background for the series, Kimyos and humans were in a war where plenty of death was caused, alright? And so moving on to the main timeline, even though it's more laws and rules regulating the abilities for Kimyos to use their talents, hey, think about how a superhero little thing will go, alright? It's some hatred back there. And so this is a way for young men to be able to get out their frustration, what they're going through, and be able to properly use their abilities. But one day when their master is killed by a former student, which is due to old age of course, they enter a tournament in order to seek due justice for their deceased master. And what makes it even more interesting is that before the master died, he transferred his talent to Shay, granting Shay the ability to use the Ilio state. Long story short, now he's overpowered. But he is done correctly, because even though Shay was given one of the strongest talents in existence, it takes him years of training in order to properly master this talent, and he faces many adversaries and other Kimyos along his journey, and has different masters that train him in different perspectives and aspects to give him a more balanced life. And what further interest into the series is that the manga is able to foreshadow and bring in old information to relevancy in the main continuity of the story. We get so much background information throughout the story that is important, and characters that may be alive or deceased, we get to expand on their existence. And from what you've seen in this video, I am almost 100% sure that This is probably the best art out of any manga I've ever read. The detail and paneling of the series is insane. You can tell Brent put his all into this story, and I want to harken on the art just for a little bit because representation is everything. For so long, black people haven't had much representation of themselves in the anime/manga medium. So having a story like this where the cast is predominantly black, seeing that representation of a black male lead is inspiring, and the art is so detailed because instead of dulling down black features such as bigger, more plump lips, wider noses, naturally kinky, uniquely styled hair, and ranging various skin tones, the manga leans into these characteristics and it just makes for such a more vibrant story, and the diction as well that is used is a unique way of adding words such as stoopsy or chew, whereas it originated in the West Indies that give the series more flavor, if you will, to the story, and it helps immerse yourself not only in the story but the culture as well. And the reason why I want to harken on these aspects is because looking at what we have nowadays when it comes to the most popular of manga, webtoons, anime, manga, first of all, not all of them start off as strong as Ordeal did and has. Ordeal has probably had the best starting off art. It is colored wonderfully. The detailing, the aspect ratio, the paneling, it's done gorgeously. And when you look at, and again, I love a lot of these manga, but look at Tower of God. The art in the beginning and even now, it still isn't as up to par, but again, it's not always about the art. It really is also about the story. But comparing those two, you can see how Ordeal would take the cake when it comes to the art. And look at the story. Tower of God has an amazing, wonderfully done story. So does God of High School, Unordinary, Soul Leveling, all good stories. But I think Ordeal sets itself apart because not only can you see some of the aspects it's taken from other stories such as My Hero Academia, Soul Leveling, God of High School, but a lot of it is just done in a better way, and there's nothing wrong with taking some aspects of stories that you like, but I love how Brent Bristol was able to combine them all into a perfect series. And again, there may be a little issues with the story, but in all, I don't think there's much that you can complain about with Ordeal. The story is done great. The historical background information we get, the representation we have for this story, a lot of the Greek mythology is used for this story is also really cool. And after just watching Percy Jackson, I think that the playoff from the Greek mythology done in this series is honestly very unique and is a cool way to add into the series. And again, I loved rank systems where the way the ranking system orders from the best of these Kimios to like the lower ranks. I love series like that, so it just really appealed to my imagination and appealed to the audience range that I am located in. This is just a great story, and I'm really agitated that this story does not have the popularity and boost that it should have. Although you look at webtoons, you look at how many viewers it has reading it, for what this story has done so far and for how much Brent Bristol is able to do by himself, maybe as a little team or not, but to do by himself, this art is amazing. The story is exceptional. We just finalized season 2 and waiting for season 3 to come out. I am always patiently checking for Ordeal because it is just one of the best stories I've read, not only in a very long time, but in general, and I'm able to see myself in it. I would highly recommend this story to you. And hey, again, it's not to be racist or choose out a specific race, but if you do happen to be of so-called African descent, highly recommend you to read this story. And if you're not, I also highly recommend you to read this story. It is so cool. It's such a fun way to immerse yourself not only in this type of culture but into this expansive world. We get so much information about time periods from years ago that you wouldn't even think about, how Kimios came to be, how Kimios were and hundreds of years ago to the modern day. It's really cool. We also get to see how humans also are, how they've evolved, how they've come up with technology. We get information on Shay's family. It's just a wonderful story, and I'm highly recommending this to you. I want to talk more about Ordeal, get more into their power system, get more into how Kimios work, how the talented states are, how the background information of Shay gets and theories about this story, but it won't be able to happen if there's not enough support for this series. So that's why I'm asking you, please share this video, like, comment, subscribe. This will all help. If you don't want to do it for me, do it for Brent Bristol, the creator of Ordeal, because he puts so much work, thought, and detail into this story that it just feels like a crime not to have as much popularity as it should have. Alright, and again, I don't want to talk too much and ramble, but hey, Ordeal, one of the best series and probably the greatest webtoon I've ever read in my life, and I'll stand on that. I don't care what you say in the comments, I'm going to stand on how great this series is. I'm going to recommend it to anybody that I can to just expand and get more popularity for this series. It's so cool, such an awesome series, such a unique way and battle system. Hey, but anyways, y'all have a blessed one.